Yeah. It's okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Before I start, does every member of Parliament have a seat? Delegation has a seat? Very good. Well, it's an honor for me to be here. My name is Mark Eiking. I'm chair of the International Trade Committee. To have such special guests here at the House of Commons for such a special meeting. And with us today, we're going to discuss the Canada-Ukraine relationship. And we welcome the Prime Minister of Ukraine, His Excellency Volodymyr Gruzman, along with his Vice Prime Minister, His Excellency Stepan Kubev, and Ukrainian Ambassador in Canada, His Excellency Andriy Shevchenko. Welcome, and welcome all the people that are with you traveling and to the House of Commons in this very special meeting. Around the table here and in the audience, we have our colleagues from the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs of International Development, members of the Standing Committee on the National Defence, who we have our chair, Mr. Fuhrer, with us. In addition, of course, my committee, our committee, the International Trade Committee, they're amongst us also. Of course, everyone would love to ask a question, but we only have certain time restraints. Our wonderful country, of course, was first inhabited by our Indigenous First Nations community, and that was the start of our country, I guess, but many different diaspora have come to our country, and there's no more important than the Ukrainian community. Almost all of us have people from Ukrainian origin. I'm from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, where the community of Whitney Pier has a vibrant Ukrainian community. They came over in the early 1900s to work in the steel plant, and it's the best place to get pierogies and cabbage rolls right in our area. But we have, I think I was just talking to Mr. Bazan. He said there's over 1.5 million of Ukrainian origin in this country, and it doesn't matter if they're in Cape Breton or on the prairies. We see it well represented. So before we start this meeting, I would like to do a little bit of housekeeping and just tell you how some of the procedures of a standing committee is if you're just attending one for the first time. We have interpretation devices available for everyone who needs them in the back, because we will be speaking in our both official languages, English and French. You do not have to touch your mic. Your mic will be activated by the staff here. And the other thing is there's no, once I start, there's no photos or recording of this session. And after we're done, we're going to have outside we have a wonderful setting there where if anyone wants pictures with the delegation and the Prime Minister, it's going to be, there's flags available and you can do so. So without further ado, we only have to 1 o'clock, and I'm going to start off the meeting with, of course, giving the floor over to the Prime Minister of Ukraine, His Excellency Volodymyr Gruzman. Go ahead, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you, dear members of Parliament, dear chairs of committees. First of all, I want to thank you on behalf of our delegation and on behalf of our country of 45 million for this initiative to hold this joint meeting. I want to stress that for us, Canada is an extremely special partner. It's a country with which we have very close ties. First of all, ties that are lasting for over 100 years, namely 125 years when first Ukrainians landed in Canada, and we are proud that Ukrainians who live in Canada, who are Canadian citizens who are born in Canada, they made their contribution to the strengthening of your state. And today we face a lot of global challenges, and I'm deeply convinced that together we can be efficient to protect our democracy globally. And the fact that today there is a joint meeting of 3 committees of the Foreign Affairs, Defense, and International Trade is something that dedicated to special issues. So we attach paramount importance to our cooperation between our countries. And today, in these years, we face absolutely new opportunities. This is my first visit ever to Ukraine as the Prime Minister and as well as personally. So I discovered this wonderful country for myself, and I see that we have wonderful opportunities to deepen our cooperation in many areas, starting from culture and coming down to cooperation at the international arena. As a country of 45 million, as a large nation, we experience very difficult times of our establishment, and in these difficult times of the last 3 years, we feel your support, the support of Canada. We know that the issue of Ukraine is in regard to Ukraine, there is a unity in the Parliament of Canada, and we highly appreciate this as a sign of support of democracy and democratic values. For the last 3 years, we've been defending our independence, we've been restoring our territorial integrity, we've also conducted reforms in our country in these difficult times, the reforms that are related to all areas of our life. I want to stress that in 2014 we faced an unprecedented aggression from the side of the Russian Federation. Let me provide you with just some facts and figures. There was the annexation of Crimea, the occupation, the temporary occupation of a part of eastern Ukraine. Overnight we lost our traditional markets because Ukraine's economy was very dependent on Russia. It was Russia's policy to make Ukraine dependent. We faced the interruption of energy supply, interruption of gas supply to Ukraine. We were dependent on 93% on the Russian gas. We also faced information attacks by Russia as well as cyber attacks that are also a challenge for us today. As a result of the actions of the previous regime, the national economy was very weak, and the aggression led to the loss of 17% of our GDP. And all of that for us was an extremely important challenge, and we started the restoration of our country, including by means of cooperation with our international partners. And I want to once again to express our appreciation for the fact that in these difficult times you were and you are standing by our side. Just like in 1991, when Canada was the first Western country to recognize our independence, we feel the same sort of support today. We can also mention the numerous technical missions operated in Ukraine and our defense cooperation, and I also consider a tremendous breakthrough the agreement on free trade between our countries. We would like to see the beginning of dialogue on the simplification of visa regime between our countries, and we have accumulated positive experience. We have visa-free regime with the European Union and with Israel. We have quite liberal visa regime with the United States, and I am convinced that the time has come for us to start that dialogue, to bring our nations even closer to each other. During that period of time, we managed to stop the economic downfall. We started economic recovery. Now the economic growth is a bit more than 2% of GDP. We also started the total reformation of the country in many areas that remained unreformed for over 23 years. We started the decentralization of the country. We launched a large-scale reform of public service, reform of energy sector. We started the formation of the new legislation to fight corruption efficiently. We now face the need to establish a new Ukrainian anti-corruption court that will be trusted by the public. Just last weeks, we passed a very important decision by the Parliament to create a new modern system of education, and as well as the reform of the healthcare system. In this October, we also approved a new large-scale reform of pension system of Ukraine. We are preparing for large-scale privatization, and also we plan many other reforms that will change the life of our country. We are not going to stop, and from September 1st, 2017, the association agreement with the European Union has fully entered into force. This means that we have to align our legislation with the European legislation, and we have to create Ukraine as a democratic country with powerful economy. Once again, I want to stress that we appreciate your support that we feel permanently, and today we can speak about our vision of the future, because I'm the kind of man who believe that everything that is done today is already history. It is important to discuss what we are going to do tomorrow. Thank you.
Дякую, пане прем'єр-міністр, за ваше вступне слово. У нас недавно
Years ago, you have a country full of resources, of vibrant people, and it's a shame that they always seem to face so many challenges. But good luck, and we're going to move right into. We have a system with our committee, or we try to keep it 5 minutes a speaker, but we're going to be flexible. And I ask my colleagues just to ask probably one question, cut it short, ask one question, so the Prime Minister or his people with him can have time to answer. So without further ado, we're going to go right to the Conservatives. Mr. Bazan, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Your Excellencies for being with us today to talk about everything that's going on in Ukraine and how we're going to move it forward. And as you know, that we've had consecutive governments here in Canada, Conservative and Liberal, with support of NDP, all standing united with Ukraine. We want to ensure that the people's aspirations that were expressed on Maidan through the Revolution of Dignity are fulfilled. You talk about the privatization of certain sectors in Ukraine. One of the areas that I've been concerned about as someone who has an agricultural background is ensuring that the lands of the farmers of Ukraine are able to be sold and transferred. In your proposals, have you made any provisions to allow or not allow for the sale of agricultural lands to foreign owners?
Дякую за ваше запитання.
Thank you for your question. Indeed, it's a very important question, because agriculture today in Ukraine forms 17% of our GDP. So we see huge opportunities for growth, and an important element of this growth is an opportunity to trade land. As you know, it's a very sensitive issue for Ukrainians, and it requires greater discussion and greater communication with the Ukrainian public. But I want to stress that for us, as the government, this topic is among our priorities. Today we communicate with the public, and we look for a format that will satisfy the needs of our national economy, as well as to protect the rights of Ukrainians. Indeed, we found we decided on the first step that we can make, that's the support of national farming in Ukraine. So at the first stage, this mechanism does not provide for an opportunity to sell Ukrainian land to foreign citizens. The land will be sold only to small farms. We believe that this step will facilitate the introduction of circulation of land, and it will also boost the development of Ukrainian farms. Thank you.
Дуже дякую вам за відповідь.
The Prime Minister has been leading the anti-corruption measures that are taking place in Ukraine. When we were there as the National Defense Committee, we heard about reform that's happening within the Ukraine military, as well as in other avenues of government. I also understand that there has been some public protests over the last month or so about the speed of those reformations. Could you elaborate to committee as to how things are going in reform and how you're dealing with corruption and getting rid of it from the government of Ukraine?
Дуже дякую вам за вашу.
Thank you for your question. It is very important. And indeed, for us, it is very important to fight against corruption that existed in Ukraine for many years. It was cultivated in Ukraine, and it's a very serious challenge. So here we decided to take a systematic approach. So this is a twofold answer to this question. On one hand, we have the fight in criminal terms. We should bring to justice everyone who commits corruption-related offenses. On the other hand, that's the institution-related changes that allow us to eliminate the roots of corruption. And as far as the first part is related, in 2015, when I was the Speaker of the Parliament, we started amending the national legislation. We created quite open national legislation which demonstrates its efficiency to date. We did it to detect corruption-related offenses. All the necessary laws have been approved and they entered into force. So the second step was the creation of anti-corruption institutions that are designed to fight corruption. For the first time in the history of our state, we created absolutely independent National Anti-Corruption Bureau that investigates corruption, and also we have created the National Agency for Prevention of Corruption. Its mission is to analyze situation and to conduct scrutiny and monitoring of way of life of public officials. We have opened all the public registries. Now it's easy to obtain information about the beneficiaries and owners of property. Previously, this data was closed. We introduced the electronic declaration system that is quite meticulous and which raises the bar for the officials and for those who hold public positions. And in addition, we have created independent anti-corruption prosecutor's office. There was a special procedure for creating these bodies. So today they experience this stage of their establishment and unfolding. Now we need to resolve the third problem, that is the creation of fair and just judiciary. In this context, we reboot the Supreme Court. We create the new composition of the Supreme Court in accordance with the constitutional amendments approved last year, and now there's a new initiative to create anti-corruption court. The president's position, and this is his constitutional mandate, he will introduce a bill on the establishment of the new anti-corruption court in the near future. So all the institutions will be created, will be in place, and then we'll have to fight corruption. As regards the institutional changes, as I said, we are working to pass systematic decisions to eliminate the roots of corruption. For example, in August 2016, we launched the system of transparent public procurement, and by the way, the agreement on free trade with Canada allows Canadian companies to take part in the Ukrainian public procurement. So now we spend billions in an absolutely transparent manner. Previously, it was a very corrupted and close system. We eliminated corruption in energy as regards the gas pricing. It used to be a very corrupt system. We also implement large-scale deregulation, and we remove various obstacles to the development of national economy and business. In addition, back in 2015, we launched the important reform of decentralization of power, which forms another important element of anti-corruption changes. You know, today
Have to move. I'm going to try to get as many questions as possible from the MPs, and I apologize for interrupting you, but I have to move on. And I'm going to ask members of Parliament just to ask one question, so we can get as many members of Parliament to ask a question to the Prime Minister and the people who's with him. So without further ado, we're going to move over to the Liberal Party now. Mr. Wisniewski, we call him Boris. He's a great ally for for both countries. And so, Boris, you have the floor. If I may call you Boris.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Mike. Prime Minister Groisman, the Donbass was historically an industrial powerhouse. Today it's a war-ravaged wasteland with almost 2 million IDPs who fled into free Ukraine, and many millions within the occupied territories are facing a very cold winter with grave shortages of food and medicines. In the Donbass, we clearly see the harvest of Putin's war: death, destruction, hunger, and millions of refugees. Putin's intent is to transform a democratic Ukraine with a growing economy integrated into the West into a failed state. The Kremlin clearly is not averse to militarily invading independent Ukrainian territory. Now let's envision the devastation of the Donbass throughout eastern and southern Ukraine, the resultant tens of millions of refugees. It's an incredibly chilling scenario. Prime Minister, how many tanks has Russia moved into the Kremlin puppet statelets of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic? How many Russian soldiers are based along Ukraine's northern and eastern borders? How many Russian soldiers are based in militarily invaded and occupied Crimea in Ukraine's south? How many Russian soldiers are based in the Kremlin puppet statelet of Transnistria in Ukraine's southwest? And finally, if we are to help Ukraine to build a credible military deterrence, to give Ukraine a real chance to rebuild their economy and integrate into the West, besides training Ukrainian soldiers, what else needs to be done?
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you for your question. Indeed, Russia started its invasion only when our country has decided on its integrational path towards the European Union and the United European family. All that Russia didn't like, and they started their attack. But I believe that today the question is much broader than on Ukraine alone. I will provide you with just one example. The Ukrainian Crimea, before annexation, it was a resort that could be used by residents of all countries of the world, which temporarily hosted a Russian naval base that was to be withdrawn in 2017. Today it is turned into a Russian army base, extremely powerful, that threatens not to Ukraine alone. It's too powerful to threaten Ukraine alone. Accordingly, it threatens NATO countries as well. As regards our future actions, we will, of course, fight, and we will do everything possible to make sure that the enemy withdraws from our territory. The numbers are tremendous. If we speak about the military component, that's more than 60,000 personnel and more than 700 tanks. There are several thousand armored personnel vehicles that are deployed at Ukraine's borders and also inside Ukraine in the occupied regions. This is all a threat to us, and we support political and diplomatic resolution, but we also know for sure that our military capacity will represent a very important argument to withdraw Russian troops from Ukraine. So indeed we need to improve our military capacity. We speak about defensive weapons. The greater and the better we have our defense, the better argument it will be against any aggression from the Russian Federation. So we highly appreciate the Canadian contribution to the training of our military, and we believe that it would be absolutely right step to provide us with high-tech defensive weapons that will be a symbol and a system of containment of aggression from the Russian Federation. Thank you.
And we're going to move over to the NDP now, and Ms. Duncan, you got the floor.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Prime Minister. Nice to have you here in Canada. I've been fortunate to go to your country a number of times. Beautiful place. I only get one question, so I'm simply going to start by congratulating you on your National Renewable Energy Action Plan. I know that you've had a struggle with accessing gas and fossil fuels and so forth, and I congratulate you on the actions taken and the awards you're winning on iTech development. And one thing I would think you should think about is Canadian expertise. A lot of countries are helping you. Think about asking for Canadian expertise. Related to that, my question to you is, I understand there are negotiations underway for visa-free access for Ukrainians to Canada. One of the things that you could benefit from is your experts coming here and meeting with our experts. I'm wondering how the negotiations are going on the visa-free access.
Дякую за ваше запитання. Я вважаю,
Thank you for your question. I believe that the topic of visa-free waiving visas for Ukrainians is a very important topic that will contribute the development of our bilateral relations. We now only put on the table the initiative to launch this dialogue, and in case of Canadian consent, our experts are ready to start comprehensive dialogue and to create a roadmap that will lead us to achieving this goal. We highly respect your national legislation, and we would like to make this process very efficient to ensure that our bilateral interests are preserved. So we are open for cooperation. As regards the technical cooperation, we know that now there is a review of the new program of technical cooperation by Canada, and we highly expect that Ukraine will take a proper place in terms of technical support, the support of reforms, and the expert support of Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd just like to recognize we have the two parliamentary secretaries here with us also today, Ms. Pam Goldsmith-Jones and Mr. Leslie. Welcome also to
And Omar, Deborah, and Sherry. And
oh yes, sorry.
And
Sorry, I'm almost out of order because I didn't recognize them all here. But anyway, I'd just like to welcome all the parliamentary secretaries here also. I don't want to cut in time for the members, so we're going right to Mr. Peterson. Go ahead.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chair. We have lots of parliamentary secretaries here and those working hard to join it. So,
Inside joke.
I want to, Mr. Prime Minister, Vice Prime Minister, Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for being with us today. It's an honor to be here. I'm one of the several members of Parliament with Ukrainian heritage, so I'm particularly proud to be here today. And I harken back to December 2nd, I think was the date, 1991. As a university student, when I recall vividly how Canada was the first Western country to recognize Ukraine, and I think that was a monumental date both in the history of both of our nations. And continuing in that vein, we ratified the Canadian-Ukrainian Free Trade Agreement last year, and I believe it was unanimous. Every member voted for that. I think also was a monumental day for the relationship between our two countries. So I just wanted to touch upon that agreement a little bit and international trade between our two countries in general, and from the perspective that I think trade and a strong economy is the best way to strengthen democracy as well. And I think Ukraine's only the 70th ranked trading partner with Canada now. So what obstacles are there to trade, and how can we work together to increase trade, because it's so fundamental not just to the relationship between our two countries, but in helping you strengthen the democracy in your country, and frankly to show the world that Canada and Ukraine have been friends for a long time and remain friends. And that would be, I think, a good way of indicating that friendship globally. And I just wonder if there's ways we can remove obstacles, and how can we improve the trade between our two countries.
Thank you. First of all, I want to reiterate and thank you for the unanimous support of this decision. One of the important components of my working visit to Canada is searching for opportunities to deepen our cooperation in economic sphere. Yesterday we had a business forum between Canadian and Ukrainian entrepreneurs. Our delegation includes a large number of economy-related ministries, including the government representative on international trade. So we have created high-quality foundations to ensure that trade turnover is growing between our countries. Now we need to broaden the contacts among our businesses, and now we see that the turnover grew by 70%, but still we know that this is still not in line with our potential. Several $100 million is not the level that we can achieve in trade between our two economically strong countries. So I expect that every year we'll see the growth of our bilateral trade, and also we're ready to launch a dialogue to expand free trade area into the services area. I think that this will provide us with very serious opportunities, especially in view of the already existing cooperation in the area of services. And also there's yet another area for cooperation, that is the protection of bilateral investment. So we need to open our countries, we need to provide business with better information about our legislation and logistics, and we'll see new contacts between businesses and growth of our trade. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson, and we're doing quite well here, folks. So, and I think we got maybe have time for another round. So we're going to start off with the Liberals. Madame Lapointe, and she'll speak in French, so there might be a little bit of delay, but if it goes back to Ukraine. So without any further ado, Madame Lapointe, you got the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. Welcome. We're delighted to meet with you today. Indeed, we signed our very first free trade agreement with Ukraine recently. My colleagues have asked if there are improvements that might be able to be made to improve this free trade agreement. Which sectors of the economy do you think will benefit from this? You talked earlier about services and cooperation. What improvements might be made, and what should we focus on to ensure that both countries benefit from the very best opportunities offered by this free trade agreement?
Французькою мовою. Ми можемо, окей? Ми маємо вже неоцінений досвід нашої співпраці щодо... окей.
I don't change channels. Just see maybe...
So we get voice, we just don't have
right.
translation.
Що у нас з перекладом?
Okay, now it's okay. Now you can go ahead. Спробуйте ще раз. So now we have a very good experience of our cooperation. When we created our free trade agreement, we should utilize the same experience to agree on a new agreement on protection of investment and to trade in services. And I think that we should proceed from balance of interests of Ukraine's economy. Our team is fully prepared to launch this natural process. Even more so in terms of services, trade in services, we see already cooperation between our businesses, so there is a lively demand for this sort of exchanges. Thank you.
I'm going to move on now, Mr. Kerry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And first of all, Prime Minister, it's wonderful to have you here. I'm very proud to come from Oshawa, which is the home of the first Ukrainian-Canadian cabinet minister, Michael Starr. So we have a great active Ukrainian community. I did want to ask you about some of the sectors that we do have in common. I had the pleasure of visiting your country with former Prime Minister Harper a couple of years ago, and I was really impressed on the opportunities that we would have, say, in the oil and gas sector, maybe the aviation sector, defense, industrial cooperation. So my question kind of delves in a little bit further what some of my colleagues said. You know, we have this visa regime. Perhaps we could improve that to have a visa-free regime. But what industrial sectors do you see as the greatest opportunities between Canada and Ukraine?
Thank you. Indeed, we have actually seen growth in all sectors of the national economy. We believe that we can have nice figures in development of agricultural business. There is a serious room for growth, including the growth of processing of agricultural products. If you look at the structure of our exports, you can see that we're global leaders in certain positions of agricultural exports. For example, we're #1 exporter of sunflower seed globally, but we still lack state-of-the-art technology in agriculture, and here there's room to improve our GDP contribution. And also there's an energy strategy. We plan to develop alternative energy before 2035, and we want to increase the share of alternative energy by 10 times. Our goal is also to achieve by 2020 the full coverage of our heating and housing needs with domestically produced natural gas. We already started the increase of domestic production. We expect that this year it will grow by 600 or 700 million cubic meters. So here there's another room for cooperation. I should mention hydro energy and the development of the national nuclear energy. Here there is a great potential. I should mention airspace. We have opportunities for cooperation between our countries, and tomorrow in Montreal we will attend the airspace forum between our countries, and we will sign relevant agreements. There is also construction, development, light industry, machine building. These are all areas where we need investment and which have huge potential for growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and thanks for a good question, Mr. Kerry. And we're going to move over to Mr. Dhaliwal, the Liberals. Go ahead, Mr. Dhaliwal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Prime Minister, Vice Prime Minister, Ambassador, welcome. Recently, Canada passed Magnitsky legislation. How many Ukrainians have been illegally abducted into Russia from Crimea to face show trials? Would sanctions against the prosecutors and judges in these show trials be effective?
First of all, I want to thank you for the recent approval of the Magnitsky Law by your parliament. This is a very good contribution to support the fight for human rights. When we speak about the demand for respect for human rights, and you know the violations in Crimea, we now see political prisoners and prisoners who were illegally abducted by Russia. We have seen some separate cases when we managed to achieve their release. You know that recently 2 Crimean Tatar leaders were released by international efforts, but the problem is that Russia doesn't respect human rights. Russia has started oppression of citizens of Ukraine for having their Ukrainian passports for their self-identification as belonging to the Ukrainian nation, and also for they have religious persecution, and these are all challenges for us. Therefore, we have seen dozens and hundreds of cases when people are held in custody illegally, and only single cases when people were released. And of course, the law that you passed provide an opportunity to punish specific individuals for specific violations, and that's a very substantial contribution. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for the good question, Mr. Dhaliwal. We're going to move over to the Conservatives now. We got Mr. Yurtiga. Go ahead, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would like to welcome our very special guests and friends from Ukraine. I would like to focus on the economy of Ukraine. I mean, it's a concern for everyone else. Our economy, your economy is intertwined somewhat. And I'd like to know, how has Ukraine's economy been affected by the conflict in Crimea and Donbass? And what more can Canada do from an investment perspective?
Дякую. Ми втратили.
Thank you. We lost almost a fifth of our economy because the Russians invaded our territory and seized illegally the assets of our country, including the natural resources. That was a huge challenge, and also they ignored all international norms. They imposed limitations on the movement of Ukrainian goods, including the transit of Ukrainian commodities through Russia. So it was an unprecedented pressure, but we also viewed the pressure as an opportunity. We had to retarget the national economy to other markets. This gave us an impetus to introduce new technology. For decades, Russia was holding us at bay in terms of stagnation. They prevented Ukraine by various means from developing technology breakthroughs. Now I want to stress that we have economic growth. As I said, this year it will stand at 2.2%. Next year it will be more than 3%. But we believe that economic growth of 5 to 7% is absolutely realistic goal, because we see huge potential for the participation in, of Canadian business in our privatization. We have 3.5 thousand state-owned enterprises. That's the inheritance from inefficient past. We now registered a bill that will regulate privatization according to the best international standards. After the bill is passed into a law, we'll have wonderful opportunities for investment. And there are so many areas, as I said, from land to space. There are so many interesting areas which can bring good profits for investors. Last month, we returned to the market of international lending. We placed our bonds to them amounting to $3.5 billion. So now we see the re-emergence of foreign investors' interest in Ukraine, but we need to move forward, and we need to become a country of high standards. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the question, Prime Minister. And we're going to move over now to the NDP, and Mr. Garrison, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to also welcome the Prime Minister here. I'm hoping that we can use the frequent contacts we've had recently to build closer relations between our parliaments as institutions, as well as government-to-government relationships. And I'd also like to echo my colleagues' comments that we would certainly urge Canada to get on with instituting visa-free access for Ukraine as a complement to our free trade agreement. As a member of the Defense Committee, I was privileged to visit Ukraine last month and see some of the challenges Ukraine faces trying to reform while facing ongoing Russian aggression. And we saw Canadian involvement in military reform, in police reform, and in other areas. So my question is that my understanding is most of those technical agreements expire early next year, And I'm wondering whether talks have begun or you've had any signals from the Canadian government about the importance of continuing those technical assistance programs for reform in areas like policing, corruption, and the military.
Це питання технічної співпраці, да? Я дякую за ваше запитання. Нам дуже важливо.
Thank you for your question. It is very important for us to continue and to deepen our cooperation in technical missions. So indeed, in the course of review of policy for the subsequent periods, we are really interested in ensuring that Ukraine has a proper place, and the things that we do in Ukraine are unprecedented. I cannot imagine another country that faces so many structural changes: justice, decentralization, education, healthcare, pension, national police, national security and defense, energy, and so on. All these things require experience and technical support, naturally, because we face economic problems. We face economic problems that were left unresolved for decades. They became chronic problems. So now, as we look into these problems, they need rapid but weighted professional actions to change Ukraine. But I insist that today we have reached a stage where we can, by means of new changes and transformations, we can turn into one of the most dynamic economies of Europe. It's an absolutely obvious fact, and such instruments as public privatization, weighted circulation of lands, openness of economy, and smart regulation, and the improvement of our energy capacities will provide us with an opportunity to ensure sustainable economic growth. So today many business people look for startups, for other investment opportunities, and I think that Ukraine is exactly the sort of startup that can bring success to investors. We now see thousands of international companies operating in Ukraine, and not all of them have easy times, because business is never easy, but it's obvious that these companies achieve their goals. We have high intellectual capacity in Ukraine, and we have natural resources, and this combination gives us an opportunity to succeed, and your technical assistance will improve our competence, because today we develop our own institutional strength. We already accumulated our own experience in the recent years, so we understand that we are a young democracy, a young state, but we face unprecedented challenges, and therefore we have to move quickly, and it's an honor for us to move quickly with you. Thank you.
We're going to move over to the Liberals. Madam Ludwig, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellencies. I'm very pleased to certainly to be collaborating with you and also learning from your experiences. I'm wondering, Mr. Prime Minister, if you could speak to the opportunities in terms of scaling up for exports, opening your economy for the opportunities for innovation and infrastructure, and how what the opportunities may be for Canadian professionals to support you and work with you on the investment side on the infrastructure and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, in order to develop our national economy, it is very important to modernize infrastructure. In the recent years, we have launched serious modernization of our country and overhaul of all life support systems. We have unique ports. We have started a modernization of the Ukrainian railways. We have started the rebirth and renewal of Ukrainian roads. We develop other sorts of infrastructure also to improve our export and import capacities. As far as innovations are concerned, this topic is on agenda because Ukraine is a highly innovative country. You can see that in many innovative products in the world, there's the Ukrainian components. The Ukrainian experts are worldwide known. I know in particular that in IT there is a lot of cooperation between Canadian and Ukrainian businesses. Ukrainian IT experts cooperate with Canadian business people. Just yesterday, I met a family of Canadian business people who employ 1,000 Ukrainian programmers, software developers. So the context is already there. If we sign an agreement on free trade in services, we can move on to an agreement on cooperation in IT to offer our joint products. And also it is very important for us to upgrade our transportation capacities based on newest technology. We also work to protect copyright and to ensure trust in Ukrainian economy. We also need to improve the efficiency of management of our national science. The science sphere is still unreformed, and we invest quite serious money into science, but we could obtain much more. We work on that, and next year we are going to create a foundation to support innovation in Ukraine, and we will also discuss this topic at the Council of the National Development, and we will be looking to create systems that will be leading to innovation-based products from Ukraine. So innovation is very important for us in all areas. So in particular, we see innovations being implemented in agriculture. Thank you.
Quick questions more, and Mr. Diot. Okay, you got the floor.
Mr. Prime Minister, I think Canadians are all struck by the resilience of the Ukrainian people, so congratulations on that. I'm wondering what you expect next in terms of Russian aggression, and also whether you hold out any hope of getting that territory back someday.
We have no other option but to return the temporarily occupied territory. It's about the values. It's about the values, and it's, you know, I believe that now there's a fight between two worlds. It's not about a local conflict in Ukraine. First, they insisted that it's a domestic conflict, but there is no and has never been a domestic conflict in Ukraine. It's a matter of conflict of two worlds: democratic world that is based on values and respect, and another world is not related to democracy in any way. And unfortunately, the divide between these two worlds is on our eastern border, and we protect the Western world's values. When we said that we want to be a democratic nation, when we said that we want to integrate into the West, then the Russians unleashed their military operations to hold Ukraine. But I'm certain that in the post-Soviet space, Ukraine will be a successful example of transformations, despite all the tragedies that happened in our history. I can hardly forecast the Russia's future steps, but I believe that the answer to this question is related to the efficiency of reaction of democratic world to protect its democratic values. Imagine today, for example, hadn't the Ukrainian army been so heroic, where would be the limits of the Russian aggression? We realize that today it is very important to consolidate the world, and I hear in many parts of the world ideas that the sanctions against the aggressor should be lifted. But don't we recall, dear friends, don't we think that this means the sale of values, the values for which we should fight and the values for which the previous generations thought? It's really hard to predict Russia's actions, but we need to act ourselves. We should fight, we should press, we should make the Russian leadership respect international law and sovereignty and borders. All these things should mean our victory. I don't remember who said that the aggressor acts until the aggressor believes the price tolerable. And this price should be unbearable for them. And I want to stress once again that your leadership is very obvious. It is value-based, and we respect your leadership. We gladly welcome Canadian global leadership.
Mr. And thank you for the question. It's a very short question, but it was a big answer, and we're past our time here now, and I'm going to pass the chair over to my esteemed colleague, the chair of the Defense Committee, and he'll have closing remarks here. Or go ahead, sir.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming. Ukrainian success is important to the committees represented here, to Canadians, and to Canada in general. As you know, the Defense Committee was recently in Ukraine about a month ago, and we will be tabling a report in the House of Commons in the coming weeks. And I fully suspect that our recommendations to the Government of Canada will probably spill outside our normal defense portfolio, given what we've heard here today and what we heard in Ukraine. So we look forward to that and providing some constructive recommendations to the Government of Canada to help you get to where you need to go. Thank you very much for appearing today, and if you would join us for photos outside, we would appreciate that. Thanks.
Дуже дякую.
Thank you very much.